Hey there everyone, welcome back to GameVine, and my name is David, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. So what we're going to be doing today is briefly discussing the game of Dice Masters, which is a collectible dice/card game designed by Mike Elliott and Eric Lang, which I haven't met Eric and he's one of my favorite designers, so that is on my to-do list. But the main thing that I'm going to do in this video is show you how to play so you can get started, and then watch this video and watch the other videos that I'm going to be making that have details on all the expansions that have came out thus far. And that is going to be done with the first two sets, the Marvel series, despite what my attire says, the Uncanny X-Men and the Avengers vs. X-Men, but mostly the Avengers vs. X-Men will be shown in this video. So let me give you a frame of reference before we actually dive into this game. This game is actually fashioned off the first game that Mike and Eric did called Quarriors. And Quarriors had the same thing where you have cards and dice and you're able to build up your dice pool, because this is kind of a dice building game in the fashion of what some may call a deck building game. But it also has really strong influence of Magic the Gathering when it comes to collectability and some of the terminology and or the abilities and how they work, which are consistent on the cards here. So I've been waiting a long time to actually talk about this game, and if you know me personally, you know that I like this a lot. So I'll try to keep some of my personal bias aside and save it for the other videos where I actually break down the expansion. So let's show you how to play this game right now. So what you do before you start the game is assemble your team. And for a full game, you'll assemble 8 different characters, and for a smaller game, you'll do 6. And in a larger game of 8 different characters, and that is what we're going to be discussing today, you have a pool of 20 dice that you can actually have. And you can put them on any character. See, I have 3 on Black Widow here, and I have 2 on Silver Surfer. And we'll get into why that's important later. But first, let's go over how the cards are actually broke down. So as I was discussing before, you only have a max of 20 dice that you can use, but each card has a max limit that it can have on it. So you can have a multiple of 4 Silver Surfers on one dice, and there are other cards that have 5 on them, like the Human Torch. He can have 5 different dice. And of course it has the title, and there are 3 different types of every card. Sometimes there are more, and they'll have different abilities. Up top here, this is how much this card actually costs to bring into the game and put into your dice pool. There's also a symbol here, and that is what type of character it is. So this is a shield character, and that is important to keep in mind because you can only buy the corresponding character if you at least have 1 energy of that type. Another thing that we have on the card here are the abilities. Most cards will have them, and they'll be in black, and they'll go off in the circumstance on which they are played. The other thing that we have here are the red global abilities. Now when you have these in the game, this means any player can do it. So either you or your opponent can spend a shield to do whatever this says here. And the last few things that we have on the card are the dice faces, and this shows what is actually on the Silver Surfer dice. And they're always going to be the corresponding type. So if you want more shields to appear because you have a team of shields, it would be important to put a lot of these in there. And then you have the 3 things on the dice. Let me grab one here to show you what they mean. The one in the top left is the cost that it takes to bring the character out. So when you actually roll the character, sometimes they'll have a cost, and you'll pay that with one of these generic energies. It can be any energy that you want. So for Silver Surfer, if you roll the 2, you pay 2 energy, and then you get to put him on the board. And I'll explain that in a little more detail later on. The other 2 that we have here, this is the attack. This is how much attack that the Silver Surfer has, and this is the defense down here in the bottom right. So that is how the dice are broke down. Sometimes there'll be an asterisk, like on this dice here there are 2, and sometimes the card will say if you roll this face with the asterisk, do that power. And the last thing on the card are the stripes. Now this isn't important to the gameplay, this just shows the collectability and the rarity of the card. This one here is gray, so that means it's a basic. Human Torch here, he is green, and then it goes up to yellow, which is rare, and then it goes to red, which is super rare. Now I don't have any super rares in the first set, but I have enough characters to show you how to play. So that is the card breakdown. Now that you've assembled your 8 character team, you can go on to pick 2 basic actions and get started. And then each player will pick 2 basic action cards in which they get 10 from the starter set to bring to the battle, and then they'll put them on these colored cards. Now, as you can see, they don't have a colored dice assigned to them. That's why you put them on these colors here, and these basic action dice are now assigned to these cards, and that's how you can remember. So now these basic cards can be bought by either player. It has 2 different sides. 2 here means 2 generic energies. Remember, you have to have at least one of the corresponding energy to buy that character, but this could help out in the long run. And then the burst symbols. And that will show what they do every time you roll that right there. The ability kicks in, and some have burst and some don't. So you'll buy these basic action cards in addition to buying heroes and fill up your bag that way. So now that you have your team assembled and your basic action cards picked out, you're going to give each player one of these wax vomit bags and give them 8 psychic dice. And this is what you're going to start off with. And the psychic dice are broke down like this. They have 1 of each corresponding energy, and then a question mark, which is a generic energy, and they have a pawn on them. So these can be used as 1/1 monsters. They can annoy people. So now that we're set up, let's show you how to play Dice Masters. The other thing that I did fail to mention about the cards is affiliation. If they have one, it's going to be up here. Now this guy is a villain. You have Fantastic Four, X-Men, and no affiliation at all. And also, you can only pick one of a certain hero. So if I pick this Green Goblin, I can't have a separate Green Goblin card. Though your opponent can pick Green Goblin because you go into the match unknowing of the person's deck. So there might be 2 Green Goblins going against each other, but note, you can't have 2 of the same person. So this mat does not come with the game. You can go out and buy this. It's about 20 bucks, but it's a good, helpful guide to start off playing the game. So I'm going to have it here set up with all 8 of my heroes, my 2 basic action cards, and I have a cheaper one on this side. I made this myself, and it's just there as an example. Then you'll take anything you want and set it on the life bar, or you'll keep track of 20 lives somehow. And now you're ready to start. I know that was a mouthful, but let's play Dice Masters. You'll grab your bag and take your 8 sidekicks and put them in here. And now you're ready to start your turn by drawing 4 dice. Now I'm going to go over a lot of the rules. There are going to be some things that I'm not going to touch on that you can discover yourself, some of the abilities. But this video is going to give you a good reference to go to. So you'll pick a start player however you want to, and if he's able to get any enemies out here on the field, he cannot attack on the first turn, but after that, it's no holds bar. So once you've grabbed your 4 sidekicks out on your first turn, because that's how it's going to go, you'll roll them. And you get 1 reroll. You can save any dice that you want, and then reroll any other ones. But once you've done that, these are locked. These are what you're going to be using to buy certain heroes. So as long as you have one of the corresponding energies and the amount of energy, you can buy a hero and put them in the use pile, because that's where they go. And once you've used energy, they're going to go into the use pile as well. And you can buy as much as you can with the amount of energy that you want. So if I had 2 fists, I could buy 2 Black Widows, but I can't even buy 1 because I didn't have the corresponding energy. So I settled on just buying 1 Human Torch. So that was a simple non-lethal first turn. You would buy your dice, put them in the dice pile, and then you would pass your turn. Let's go over how the field is broke up so you can get an idea of how that works. So the first one here is a dice bag, self-explanatory. The reserve pool here, some dice might sit here as energy if you don't spend them on your turn, and when it comes back around to you, they'll get spent, but you might be able to do some cool globals when it's your opponent's turn. The prep area, this is where a lot of dice are going to be sent to when they attack and they die if they hit another opponent. So if Johnny went against Professor X and say Johnny got knocked out and Professor X didn't, he would just block, stay in the zone, and he would go into the prep area. Now you'll be able to roll any dice in the prep area in addition to the 4 dice that you draw out of your bag. So on this turn, I'll be rolling 5 dice. But if Johnny were to attack and you get to decide if you want to block or not with a character, and he decided not to block Professor X, he would take the damage, Johnny would go through, and instead of going to the prep area, he would go to the use pile. And the field zone is just where all your characters are going to sit when they're not attacking. This is what you're going to be putting into the attack zone when you declare, and that's when your opponent's going to say, okay, I'm going to be blocking this with that. And of course, the last thing you have here is the life pool. So your opponent would take his turn, drawing out his 4 dice, buying his characters, and then it would pass on to you. You would again draw your 4 remaining sidekicks and roll and buy. You continue to do this and building your dice pool, because once you have to draw a dice and you can't, you pick up your whole used pile and you put it back in the bag. So say I had 3 sidekicks left in my bag, I draw 3, but I need to draw the 4th. I would draw them 3 sidekicks, put them out here, take my used pile, put it back in my bag, and this is where I can try to draw colors, as I call them. And I did. Oh my lord, I didn't look. I really just genuinely got that. Pretty cool. So this is where you can decide to actually bring out these characters. Say I rolled this here, and Johnny has 2 energy to spend to put him in the field. So I would have to spend these 2 dice, and I'm only left with 1 mass. Now I might be able to do a global with that, but most of the time you're not going to have a character that costs 1 energy. So now that Johnny's out, he can attack if I want to, or I can just leave him be in the field and use him as a blocker. But there are different faces. Stronger faces are going to go up in level. So this is level 1 Johnny. He costs nothing to bring out, but he's only a 2/2. Level 2 Johnny is the cost of 1, and it's 3/3. And then the last level, level 3, the strongest, it costs 2, but it's a 4/4. So the attack phase, let's go over that right now. If I have multiple enemies on my side, I can choose to block 1 character with 2 different defenders if I want to. But the attacker does not decide that, it's the defender. So Johnny can't say, okay, I'm going to attack 2 of these guys. It would be on the defender to decide that. And he can split the damage however he wants. He can knock out 1 character and take the rest of the damage, keeping the other character on the field. But remember, if any character gets knocked out, either defending or attacking, it's always going to go to the prep area, giving that person more dice to roll. But again, if they decide not to block and let Johnny through, he'll just take 4 points of damage and he'll get spent. The other thing about these characters is they have 2 energies on them. So this is how you can get those bigger characters. Because unfortunately, you're not going to always have energy to bring out characters, and you're just going to want to use them as energy. So like Silver Surfer is a big 6, so he is impossible to get with 4 sidekicks. These sidekicks again have the pawn on them, takes nothing to bring them out, and they're just a 1/1. They can get through and or attack just like any of the other characters. So that is the basic gameplay of Dice Masters. You'll go back and forth doing this process until one person is KO'd. It can be exact or it can be into the negative. The thing that I will say is the cards break the rules big time. So I'm going to go over a few of them, though again, I'm not going to go over every rule. This is just a tutorial to get you into the game. So let's go over some of those cards now. As you can see, my team here, they all have a lot of different abilities. It might not be the best team. I just grabbed a few, especially with Green Goblin and Spider-Man on the same team. I don't know how that happened. But let's go over some of these abilities so you can have more context. So while the Human Torch is active, each time you field a character, Human Torch deals 1 damage to your opponent and 1 to the target character. Not 1 damage per Human Torch. So a lot of that is going to be in fine print. You can't really stack on some cards, but some allow you to do so. So he's going to do kind of like this spitting fireball every time you summon a character, which again is in line with Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone. And the Green Goblin here, while the Green Goblin is active, your sidekick characters get +1 attack and +1 defense. That's what the A and the D means when it comes to the card. Now, this again can't be stacked. This was a favorite among a lot of players because it really does beef up your sidekick army, and you can just do a weenie attack and kill them that way. We'll go over a few more here. We have Doc Ock. When Doc Ock attacks, he can pick a character and he can't block. So he is a big, strong character. He's an 8/8, and this could really wallop and hurt and cripple another player. So, but he's really expensive. So pay attention to a lot of these costs, because players like to balance their decks out and not put big characters all throughout their team because they want to be able to summon some more characters and have lower ones. So Green Goblin's good for lower, Storm's good for lower, and to have a few 6s and a few 7s is good, but not to really bog down your team. And we'll go over Spider-Man, and then I'll go over some of the basic cards. You may pay a fist to prevent Spider-Man from being affected by any ability or game effect. I did want to go over, there are other things like equipment. Now this isn't necessarily a hero or a character, but this will be attached to a character and it might help them. They're not like the biggest cards to play, but if you're playing the right team, they can be effective. This shield here, at the start of your attack step, choose an energy type. This turn, characters of that type take no damage. So you can have immunity and have all of one type and just wipe out the opponent's board and still have your characters on the field. So these can be really effective. And I'll go over the few basic cards that we have here. We'll go over the first one. Again, you can buy these and put them in your bag and your dice pool. This one here is Smash. Knock out a target level 1 character. This is when levels matter, so you'll have to have the cards there as a reference. The Burst here, knock out a level 1 or level 2 character, and again it has the global on it as well. So the basic action cards can be really good, but sometimes it's just kind of hard to acquire them, though you can have a strategy just focused on that, because a lot of them are going to be afterthought buys. You'll just have a few energies to spare, so this one only costs 2, so it's pretty good. And invulnerability, you attack characters that are knocked out this turn, return to the field. So if you're attacking and they get knocked out, you bring them back. Again, that's kind of the theme with this set's basic cards. This is the Avenger versus X-Men. So that is it, everyone. Of course, again, like I said, I didn't go over all the abilities, but this game is designed so well and so streamlined that all the instructions will be on the card most of the time, and then you can refer to the manual if you need to. Alright, so let's wrap up this video so you can go watch the other videos and find out what comes in each set. Oh, I know, super exciting, right? So now you know how to play Dice Masters, and now what's stopping you from going out and getting a starter set and a few packs yourself? Yes, I know the collectability might scare you, but it's on the lower end scale when it comes to price. The starter packs are only $15, and the little tiny gravity feed packs are 99 cents, and they come with 2 different heroes, well, most of the time, and 2 different dice. I absolutely love Dice Masters. I know I said I would keep my opinion to myself until the next video, but I can't help myself. WizKids really knocked it out of the park. I like Couriers a lot, and it has a similar feel, though I think it's a lot faster. It has great theme to it. I know it just, you see people rolling dice, and it seems silly, though it portrays how the heroes would be in a clash battle and or villains. So I'm not going to prolong this anymore, everybody. Go ahead and check out the next video that I'm going to do for the other sets. The first one being the Avengers vs. X-Men. Basically, you've seen a lot of the cards already because that's what I used to make this tutorial. And I'm so relieved to make my first video getting the word out about Dice Masters. Not that it needs it, because this game is already a big hit and it's growing and growing each day. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope it gets you into this game, because I would love to see this crowd grow, because it's such a really intuitive game, especially if you're into those kind of trading card games, whether it be Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but Mike Fitzgerald, he designed Pokemon, so don't give it too much flack. You are going to like this game because just the visceral rolling of the dice and you using the abilities really latches on to you and gives you a solid gaming experience. So until the next time that I see you, please join me in the next videos. Please like and subscribe at the end of the video here. I've been Dave from Gamevine. Have a great rest of your day and a great time with all that you play. You heard it here on the Gamevine. I'm out.